Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we crack open complex ideas and sources to give you a genuine shortcut to being well-informed. Have you ever felt absolutely swamped by promises of instant success?
Oh, constantly. That magic pill, the overnight fortune.
Exactly. Today, we're cutting right through all that noise to expose the true operating system behind all lasting achievement.
It's fascinating, really. For this deep dive, we're looking into Darren Hardy's profoundly impactful book, The Compound Effect.
Right.
What's critical to grasp here is that this isn't about some secret loophole or, a quick fix.
Right.
It's about understanding how seemingly insignificant choices we make day in and day out accumulate into radical, often astonishing differences in your life.
Our mission in this deep dive is to pull out the most powerful lessons from this material, show you exactly how these principles apply directly to your daily life, and help you truly understand what Hardy means by harnessing this unseen yet incredibly potent force.
Yeah.
We're going to explore the surprising power of your choices, the undeniable psychology of your habits, and how you can ignite an unstoppable momentum to revolutionize your life, just as Darren Hardy and, well, countless others have.
So prepare for some truly fascinating anecdotes, a few surprising facts, and most importantly, actionable strategies. These aren't just abstract theories. They're concrete principles you can start putting to work for yourself right now.
All right, let's unpack this. When you hear that old adage, slow and steady wins the race, or you think about the fable of the tortoise and the hare, I want you to immediately picture Darren Hardy. He describes himself as the tortoise. Not necessarily the fastest, not always the smartest, but given enough time, he's the one who will win virtually any competition.
He attributes that winning edge to one thing: consistently developing and applying positive habits. He considers himself living proof that consistency is, well, the ultimate key to success.
His personal story really grounds this idea, and it's deeply rooted in his upbringing.
It really is. Hardy was raised by a single father, a former university football coach, who essentially hardwired him for achievement from a very young age. Imagine this. His wake-up calls weren't a gentle tap on the shoulder.
Yeah.
At 6 a.m., he'd be jolted awake by the relentless, almost tribal sound of iron weights pounding on the concrete floor of their garage right next to his bedroom.
Wow.
His father had even painted a huge "no pain, no gain" sign on the wall, staring at it while he did relentless old-school strongman deadlifts, power cleans, lunges, squats. Rain, sleet, or shine, his dad was out there, never missing a day. It was a routine you could literally set your watch by.
Wow, that sounds intense, almost military-like. But it wasn't just the workouts, was it? There was a whole lifestyle built around this discipline.
Far from it. He recalls having more chores than a housekeeper and gardener combined.
Yeah.
Coming home from school, there was always a list. Pull weeds, rake leaves, sweep the garage, dust, vacuum, do the dishes.
Just constant work.
Constant. And falling behind in school. Absolutely not tolerated. His father was the original no excuses guy. They weren't even allowed to stay home sick unless they were actively puking, bleeding, or showing bone.
Showing bone. Seriously.
Yeah, seriously. That last phrase, showing bone, came directly from his coaching days. Players weren't allowed off the field unless they were so seriously injured you could literally see bone.
Jeez.
This really drilled in the core philosophy. It doesn't matter how smart you are or aren't. You need to make up in hard work what you lack in experience, skill, intelligence, or innate ability.
So just outwork everyone.
Exactly. If your competitor is smarter, more talented, or experienced, you just need to work 3 or 4 times as hard. You can still beat them.
So it wasn't about raw talent. It was about outworking everyone consistently. He shares some really vivid examples of this in the book, right? Like the free throws.
Oh, yeah. If you miss free throws in practice, the solution isn't just to practice more. It's to do 1,000 free throws daily for a month.
1,000 a day.
If your left-hand dribbling is poor, you tie your right hand behind your back for 3 hours a day. Behind in math. You work like hell all summer.
It wasn't about being given instructions then. It was about taking personal responsibility and, crucially, showing results. And here's a fascinating psychological twist. Those results were actually celebrated, which I think is a key part of positive reinforcement.
Absolutely key. Good grades meant king banana splits from Pring's,
Right.
an ice cream parlor with 6 scoops and all the fixings. Those rewards weren't just treats. They reinforced the profound value of effort and the direct link between discipline and positive outcomes.
Makes sense.
This rigorous upbringing, born from his father's unwavering discipline, truly cultivated in Hardy a serious head start on the discipline and mentality it takes to be dedicated and responsible.
And you can't argue with the results, can you? Hardy connects this directly to his rapid success, making a six-figure income by 18 in his own business,
What do you think?
owning his own home by 20, earning over $1 million per year by 24, and building a business generating over $50 million by 27.
It's incredible.
And he doesn't attribute this to being a genius or having some secret formula. He attributes it to living the compound effect each and every day until I couldn't live any other way if I tried.
It's a compelling story, but here's where it gets truly interesting. If you're like most people, you might not be a true believer in this kind of consistent long-term effort right away. And that's understandable,
It is because, as Hardy astutely points out, society has been deeply deceived and even hypnotized by commercial marketing that constantly promises insta-fixes and fairy tale endings.
We're bombarded with it.
$200,000 a year, spending 2 hours a day on the internet, lose 30 pounds in a week, or fix your love life with a pill. These messages fundamentally distort our sense of what it really takes to succeed.
Yeah, we've almost forgotten the good old-fashioned value of hard and consistent work. It sounds almost quaint now, doesn't it?
It does. It's the lottery winner fallacy playing out in every aspect of life.
All right, Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert highlights a powerful statistic. If lottery losers each got 30 seconds on TV to announce, "I lost," it would take almost 9 years to get through the losers of a single drawing.
9 years just for one drawing.
Think about that. We only ever hear about the rare winner, which reinforces unrealistic expectations and completely obscures the, let's be honest, zero chance of winning for most people who try to hit it big overnight.
So the unsexy truth, as Hardy bluntly warns, is that earning success is hard. The process is laborious, tedious, sometimes even boring.
Sometimes especially boring.
Becoming world-class isn't a sprint. It's slow and arduous. This sets the stage for us to accept and embrace the mundane consistency that's actually required to achieve anything significant.
And this acceptance leads us right into the core definition of the compound effect itself. It is the principle of reaping huge rewards from a series of small, smart choices.
Small, smart choices.
Yeah.
Okay.
The key insight here, and frankly the part that trips most people up, is that the steps in the moment don't feel significant, offering little or no immediate result, no big win, no obvious "I told you so" payoff.
Exactly. This is precisely why people give up too soon. They get tripped up by the simplicity of it all. You run for 8 days and you're still overweight.
Or you practice piano for 6 months and all you know is chopsticks. Still.
Or you stop contributing to your retirement account because it doesn't seem to be adding up to much, especially when life feels expensive right now. It's those small, seemingly insignificant steps completed consistently over time that, like a quiet wave, create a radical difference that only becomes obvious later.
Let's make this concrete with the classic magic penny example. Imagine you're given a choice. Take $3 million cash instantly, or a single penny that doubles in value every day for 31 days. Which would you choose?
$3 million sounds pretty good right now.
Most people, driven by that desire for immediate gratification, instinctively gravitate towards the $3 million.
And it makes perfect sense why. On day 5, your friend with the penny has a measly 16 cents. You, however, are sitting pretty with $3 million, probably spending it enjoying life.
Sure are. By day 10, the penny has grown to just $5.12, while your millions are still firmly in your bank account. Even after 20 full days, with only 11 days left in the month, Penny Lane has only reached $5,243.
Barely over $5,000 after 20 days of doubling? How do you think she's feeling about her decision at this point? For all her sacrifice and positive behavior, she has so little to show for it.
Probably pretty foolish, right, compared to the friend living it up. But then, the invisible magic of compounding starts to finally become visible. On day 29, you still have your $3 million, but the penny is surging, now at around $2.7 million. Still behind.
Still behind, but closing fast.
It isn't until day 30 of this 31-day race that she finally pulls ahead with about $5.3 million.
Okay, finally.
And then on the very last day of this month-long ultramarathon, your friend absolutely blows you out of the water. She ends up with an astounding $10,737,418.24 to your $3 million.
More than $10 million. That's absolutely mind-boggling, isn't it? It perfectly illustrates how consistency over time is so crucial.
It really does. That invisible magic of compounding truly starts to become visible only at the very end, leading to results that look miraculous or like quantum leaps, but are in fact totally predictable.
Predictable if you stick with it. And what's really fascinating here is that this isn't just about money. This same incredible force is equally powerful in every area of your life: your health, your relationships, your career, your personal growth. It works everywhere.
To make this even more tangible, Hardy gives us a real-life illustration he calls the three friends. Imagine three buddies, Larry, Scott, and Brad, who grew up together. Similar backgrounds, each earning around $50,000 a year, average health and body weight, plus a bit of that dreaded marriage flab.
Okay, relatable starting point for many people. So they all start from essentially identical positions. Larry, friend number one, is our baseline. He plods along doing as he's always done, happy enough, but occasionally complaining that nothing ever changes.
Right. He represents the default unconscious path many of us take, just kind of cruising through life without much intention.
Then Scott, friend number two, is where the compound effect starts to work for you. He begins making some small, seemingly inconsequential, positive changes.
Really small. He commits to reading 10 pages of a good book per day and listening to 30 minutes of instructional or inspirational audio on his commute. Tiny time investment.
And physically.
On the physical front, he cuts just 125 calories every day, maybe a little less cereal in the morning, seltzer instead of soda, mustard instead of mayo on his sandwich. Super simple swaps. He also adds a couple thousand extra steps per day to his routine, which is less than a mile.
Again, tiny adjustments, not some heroic effort.
Exactly. Not grand gestures that demand massive willpower. Just little things.
And then there's Brad, friend number three, who takes the opposite path, the negative compounding path. He makes a few seemingly harmless, poor choices.
Seems harmless, yeah. He buys a new big screen TV, which naturally leads him to watch more of his favorite programs. He tries out cheesy casserole and dessert recipes from the Food Channel, a little extra indulgence, you know?
Yeah.
And he adds one alcoholic drink per week to his diet.
Again, nothing crazy, just feels like a little more fun, a little more ease in the moment.
Here's the critical part. For the first 5 months, no perceivable differences exist among Larry, Scott, or Brad. You literally can't see any change in their lives.
None at all.
Even at 10 months, we still can't see noticeable changes. This truly reinforces the unseen hero concept of the compound effect. The changes are happening, but they are too small to register on our immediate radar.
But then the magic or the disaster starts to unfold. It's only at the 18th month that the slightest differences are measurable.
A year and a half in.
And by month 25, really measurable, visible differences appear. By month 31, so under 3 years, the change is startling.
Startling is the right word. Scott has lost over 33 pounds, simply by cutting 125 calories a day over that period that's like losing a small child in weight. He's also invested almost 1,000 hours in self-improvement.
1,000 hours just from those little daily chunks.
Which predictably leads to a promotion and a raise, and his marriage is thriving.
Meanwhile, Brad,
in stark contrast, by month 31, is fat, weighing 67 pounds more than Scott. That's a huge swing. He's unhappy at work because he's less productive, and his marriage is on the rocks.
And Larry.
Larry's pretty much where he started, just a little more bitter about it, still complaining that nothing ever changes.
Wow. This vivid contrast perfectly demonstrates how identical starting points can diverge dramatically due to the cumulative effect of small, consistent choices, positive or negative. It clarifies that profound success was the result of small, smart choices completed consistently over time, which then appears to be an overnight success to everyone else looking from the outside.
Exactly. They don't see the 18 months of nothing seemingly happening, they just see the end result.
And it becomes even more impactful when you consider what Hardy calls the ripple effect. Even a single, seemingly small choice, positive or negative, can create an unexpected and unintended ripple that impacts your entire life in ways you might not initially foresee.
Let's put one of Brad's seemingly harmless bad habits under the microscope.
Yeah.
Making and eating muffins and other sweets frequently. At first, this seems a positive, right? He's proud of his baking, his family loves it, seems like a good thing.
Adds value, right.
Seems like it. But the extra food makes Brad sluggish at night, which then makes him wake up a little groggy, which makes him cranky.
Okay, I can see that happening. And here's where the ripple expands.
That crankiness and sleep deprivation begin to impact his work performance. He's less productive, which inevitably leads to discouraging feedback from his boss. Feeling dissatisfied with his job and with lower energy, he reaches for more comfort food. Classic stress eating.
The cycle begins.
The ripple continues directly into his relationship. This lack of energy makes him less likely to take walks with his wife, a cherished activity they used to share. She misses their time together and takes his withdrawal personally.
Ouch.
With fewer shared activities and no endorphin release from exercise, Brad's not feeling upbeat. Because he's not as happy with himself, he starts finding fault with himself and others and naturally stops complimenting his wife. As his own body feels flabby, he feels less self-confident, less attractive, and becomes less romantic.
Oh man, this is a downward spiral, and it intensifies, right?
It does. Brad's distance affects his wife. She complains, becomes needy, then eventually emotionally withdraws. Other men start to flirt with her, making her feel desirable again.
And Brad probably blames her.
Exactly. What's tragic is Brad doesn't realize his poor choices are the root of this cascade. Instead, he finds fault with his wife, blaming her for the marital issues.
This compelling narrative vividly shows how a tiny, seemingly harmless choice like baking too many muffins can cascade into negative outcomes across multiple life areas. It's truly a powerful illustration of Jeff Olson's the slight edge concept, showing how simple daily disciplines versus the simple errors in judgment lead to outcomes that are totally predictable once you understand the compounding principle.
What's truly fascinating here is the omnipresence, the compound effect. It's not something you actively turn on or off. It's a fundamental, ever-present principle of how cause and effect accumulate.
It's always working.
Always. The question isn't whether it's happening in your life, but whether it's working for you or against you.
Now, one of the most challenging aspects of the compound effect is maintaining effort not just before seeing the payoff, but also after achieving success. Hardy calls this phenomenon nothing fails like success. Complacency, basically.
Our grandparents instinctively understood this, didn't they? They didn't spend evenings watching infomercials promising thin thighs in 30 days. They knew the secret was hard work, discipline, and good habits. They worked 6 days a week, from sunup to sundown, because that's what success required back then. No shortcuts.
It's a compelling observation that wealth often seems to skip a generation. This overwhelming abundance can frequently lead to a lackadaisical mentality and a sedentary lifestyle.
Right. The children of the wealthy often weren't the ones who developed the discipline and character to create the wealth in the first place, so they may not have the same ingrained sense of value for it or, crucially, the habits required to maintain and grow it.
And as a nation, America seems to have, in some ways, lost its appreciation for the value of a strong work ethic. Generations of prosperity have perhaps led us to forget the importance of grit, hard work, and fortitude.
It's like the old analogy of the frog in the boiling water, who doesn't notice the incremental, insidious warming until it's too late. Complacency, born from success, has impacted great empires throughout history, leading to their eventual decline. We're not immune.
He shares a very real-time local example of this from his own life. A great new restaurant near his home in San Diego. It opened impeccably, right? Welcoming hostess, flawless service, sensational food. People lined up for hours just to get a table.
The initial success story.
Exactly. But then, as success mounted, the staff began to take its success for granted. The hostess became snooty, the staff disheveled, the food became hit or miss. Predictably, it was out of business within 18 months.
Wow. Just like that. Their very success clouded their perspective and they slacked off, proving that success can, paradoxically, be your biggest vulnerability if you let it braid complacency.
So the challenge for us, according to Hardy, is to recover our grandparents' work ethic. He issues a strong warning against hocus-pocus commercialism, like believing in a genie in a lamp or rubbing crystals for instant results.
Forget the magic beans.
The blunt truth he keeps reiterating is real and lasting success requires work and lots of it.
No easy way around it.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Hardy doesn't just leave us with theory, he gives us some direct, powerful action steps right from this first chapter.
Yeah, practical takeaways.
First, he challenges you to unpack your excuses. Write down a few you might be clinging to. Maybe I'm not smart enough, or I have no experience, or I had the wrong upbringing, whatever they are.
Get honest with yourself.
Then, make a conscious decision to make up in hard work and personal development to outcompete anyone, including your old self.
Next, embody Scott from the Three Friends story. Write out a half-dozen small, seemingly inconsequential steps you can take every day that can take your life in a completely new and positive direction.
Be incredibly specific here, right? Tie it to your own goals. Is it reading 10 pages of a specific book a day? Swapping out a sugary drink for water with lemon? Taking a short, deliberate walk during your lunch break?
Exactly. The smallness is key. Don't aim too high initially.
And just as important, don't be Brad. Write down the small, seemingly inconsequential actions you can stop doing that might be compounding your results downward.
Be brutally, uncomfortably honest about those subtle sabotages. That extra 30 minutes of mindless scrolling, that one unnecessary snack you always grab. You know the ones.
Finally, list a few areas, skills, or outcomes where you've been most successful in the past. Reflect honestly on whether you're taking those successes for granted and not continuing to improve, risking complacency leading to future failure.
It's a powerful preventative self-check-in. Where might you be slacking off because you already made it in that area?
And that brings us to chapter 2, all about choices. Think about this. We all come into this world the same, naked, scared, and ignorant. After that grand entrance, the life we end up with is simply an accumulation of all the choices we make.
That's a fundamental truth, isn't it? Choices, according to Hardy, are at the root of every one of your results, every single one.
Each choice you make, no matter how tiny, starts a behavior that, over time, becomes a habit. If you choose poorly, you might find yourself back at the drawing board, forced to make new, often harder choices to course correct.
Right. Or worse, you just keep making the same poor choices. And if you don't actively choose at all, you've still made the choice to be the passive receiver of whatever comes your way, letting life happen to you instead of for you.
He has this incredibly powerful statement that really makes you pause. You make your choices, and then your choices make you.
That's deep.
Every decision, no matter how slight, alters the trajectory of your life. Think about it. Whether to go to college, whom to marry, to have that last drink, to indulge in gossip, or to make one more prospecting call. Every single one has an impact, often a quiet one, on the compounding effect of your life.
Anthony Robbins, in his special introductory message in the book, hammers this home with what he calls the 2-millimeter rule. Just imagine a plane flying from Los Angeles to New York City. If it's pointed only 1% off course, an almost invisible adjustment on the tarmac, it will ultimately land about 150 miles off course. Miles off.
Wow, from just 1%.
Your little everyday decisions will either take you to the life you desire or to disaster by default. But the good news, as Robbins points out, is that a mere 2-millimeter readjustment can also bring you right back home. It's never too late to adjust your course.
And this leads to the biggest challenge. It's not that you've intentionally been making terrible, conscious, bad choices. If that were the case, it would be relatively easy to fix, wouldn't it?
You'd just stop doing the obviously bad thing.
The biggest hurdle is that you've been sleepwalking through your choices. Half the time, you're not even aware you're making them. Many daily routines are unconscious reactions to past programming.
Conditioned responses.
Nobody intends to become obese, go through bankruptcy, or get a divorce, but these consequences are often the quiet, insidious result of a series of small, poor choices made on autopilot.
It's those mosquitoes that eventually bite you, not the elephants. We occasionally hear about major catastrophic mistakes that destroy a career or reputation, a racial slur, drunken antics, you know the type.
Big, obvious stuff.
Those have immediate, obvious, major repercussions. But for most of us, it's the frequent, small, and seemingly inconsequential choices that are of grave concern. These are the ones that quietly compound, unnoticed for a long time.
He's talking about those tiny decisions you genuinely think don't make any difference at all, like inhaling a soda and a bag of potato chips and only realizing afterward that you just blew an entire day of healthy eating.
Or losing 2 hours to mindless TV instead of preparing for an important presentation tomorrow. We've all done that.
Or blurting out a knee-jerk lie to avoid a minor discomfort without even thinking about it.
These are choices made without thinking, and as long as they're unconscious, you simply can't change them into productive habits. The compound effect always works, but here, it works against you because you're sleepwalking.
So the solution?
The solution is simple, yet profoundly difficult for many. You have to wake up and make empowering choices. Become conscious of those little moments.
Here's where Hardy introduces a truly transformative concept that's central to taking control. Owning 100% responsibility.
This is huge.
He states that when he started taking 100% responsibility for everything I experienced, completely owning all of my choices and all the ways I responded to whatever happened to me, I held the power.
He shares a pivotal moment from his youth, attending a seminar at just 18 years old. The speaker asked the audience, "What percentage of shared responsibility do you have in making a relationship work?"
And everyone yelled.
Everyone shouted out 50-50 or maybe 51-49, the usual answers.
Right.
But the instructor, to everyone's shock, wrote 1,000 on the easel.
1,000. How does that work?
He explained, You have to be willing to give 100% with zero expectation of receiving anything in return. Only when you're willing to take 100% responsibility for making the relationship work will it work.
Wow, that's radical.
It was a profound shock to young Hardy, but it led to the deep realization that if he was 100% responsible, he held the power to change things no matter what the other person did or didn't do.
This means completely eliminating blame from your vocabulary. If you've ever blamed traffic for being late or decided you're in a bad mood because of something your kid or coworker did, you're not taking 100% personal responsibility.
You're outsourcing your state, basically.
You are alone, responsible for what you do, don't do, or how you respond to what's done to you. Jim Rohn famously said, "The day you graduate from childhood to adulthood is the day you take full responsibility for your life." Hardy suggests this 100% responsibility mindset is your graduation day.
Time to grow up, in a sense. And this radical reframing extends to the common idea of getting lucky. Many people use unluckiness as an excuse for their circumstances.
Oh yeah, I just have bad luck.
But consider Richard Branson's perspective when asked if luck played a part in his success. Luck surrounds us every day. We are constantly having lucky things happen to us, whether you recognize it or not. The difference is when luck came my way, I took advantage of it.
So luck is an opportunity you act on. He then gives us the complete actionable formula for getting lucky, and it's not what you might expect. It's preparation plus attitude plus opportunity plus action equals luck.
Okay, break that down. Preparation.
Preparation means constantly improving your skills, knowledge, and resources, building your foundation. As legendary golfer Arnold Palmer wisely said, "It's a funny thing. The more I practice, the luckier I get."
Makes sense. Attitude.
Attitude is about actively choosing to see situations, conversations, and circumstances as fortuitous or potentially beneficial. You cannot see what you don't look for, and you cannot look for what you don't believe in. Seeing the possibility.
Opportunity.
Opportunity is simply the natural occurrence of a good thing coming your way, perhaps faster or differently than expected. It just shows up.
And finally, action.
Action. This is your non-negotiable role. This is what separates the Richard Bransons, who act on luck, from the Joseph Wallingtons, who you've never heard of precisely because they failed to act on the opportunities that came their way.
You gotta grab it when it appears. Hardy shares a very personal story about learning the high price of tuition at what he calls the University of Hard Knocks. Nearly a decade ago, he lost more than $330,000 in a startup because his partner mismanaged and squandered all the cash.
Oof, that's a big hit.
Huge. What's crucial is his critical realization. The loss was ultimately his fault for not doing enough due diligence and not inspecting what I was expecting.
So he took responsibility even for his partner's actions.
In a way, yes. Responsibility for not overseeing it properly. Instead of fighting it or blaming his partner, he chose to lick my wounds, learned my lesson, and moved on. This experience, though painful, cemented his 100% responsibility mindset. He wasn't a victim. He was powerfully empowered by his own accountability.
That's a tough lesson, but powerful. This realization leads us directly to your secret weapon for controlling your choices: the scorecard or tracking. Hardy calls it one of the single greatest strategies for steering your life.
Because the first step toward change is awareness. If you truly want to get from where you are to where you want to be, you must start by becoming aware of the choices that lead you away from your desired destination. You need the data.
He shares a powerful money trap anecdote from his own early 20s. Despite making a lot of money, he suddenly realized he owed over $100,000 in taxes and had absolutely no idea where his money had gone. Sound familiar to anyone?
Painfully familiar for many of it. His accountant gave him tough love advice. Carry a small notepad and write down every single cent I spent for 30 days, from a $1,000 suit to 50 cents for tire air. Every penny.
That sounds tedious.
Terribly tedious. But this simple act created instantaneous awareness of his unconscious spending. He even admits he resisted buying some things just so I didn't have to take out the notepad and write it in the dang book.
Huh. The accountability worked immediately.
Exactly. This seemingly trivial effort cemented a new awareness and a completely new set of choices and disciplines. The ripple effect was profound. He became more proactive with money, saving for retirement, and identifying areas of waste.
And he applied this tracking elsewhere, too.
He used this same tracking method for everything that ailed him: eating, drinking, exercise, skill improvement, sales calls, relationships, and the results, he says, were no less profound.
The why behind tracking is simple, yet profound. You cannot manage or improve something until you measure it. This isn't just for business. It applies to everything from professional athletes who track every pitch and metric to casinos, which track every dollar at every table.
All winners are trackers. The message is clear. You must track your life as if you're a valuable commodity because, well, you are. Your time, your energy, your focus, it's all valuable.
Now, you might be thinking, I've heard about tracking before. That's not new. And Hardy acknowledges this. But then he asks, with a knowing wink, I also bet you aren't doing it now, right?
Guilty as charged, maybe? He emphasizes Jim Rohn's classic quote. What's simple to do is also simple not to do. This is precisely where successful people differentiate themselves from everyone else. They do the simple, often tedious things consistently.
So he urges you to pick just one area, money, nutrition, fitness, relationships, and commit to tracking a specific behavior for just 1 week and then extend it to 3 weeks.
Start small. 1 week.
In week 1, expect to be astonished at how those calories, pennies, or minutes have been escaping you. It's an eye-opening shock, usually.
But by week 3, that awareness starts to translate into action. You'll catch yourself asking, do I really want that candy bar? I'm going to have to haul out my notebook and write it down, and I'll feel a little sheepish. That internal resistance can save you 200 calories.
Do that consistently, and in a little more than 2 weeks, you'll have lost a pound. This immediate awareness and subtle psychological shift saves you from mindless consumption and decision-making. It brings the future consequence into the present moment.
And this leads to a powerful understanding of the real cost of seemingly small spending habits. Hardy calculates that a $4 a day coffee habit costs $60 in 3 weeks at $1,000 a year. Seems manageable.
Yeah.
Compounded at 8% interest over 20 years, it costs almost $5 in future value for every dollar spent today. So that seemingly innocuous $4 a day coffee habit is going to cost you $51,833.79 in 20 years.
50 grand for coffee.
This perspective means every $50 item you impulsively buy at, say, a big box store is potentially $250 in future value lost. This reframed perspective can dramatically help you pause and make better choices, like putting down that $50 crepe maker so future you will have $250 more in the bank.
It's about changing your fundamental mindset around what true value means, not just today, but decades from now. The future cost is real.
This deep understanding of compounding brings us to the unsung, unseen hero, the massive payoffs that come from these tiny, consistent choices. Once tracking begins, your attention naturally shifts to the smallest things you're doing right, and of course, the things you're doing wrong.
Awareness brings focus.
When you make even the smallest course corrections consistently over time, you'll begin to see amazing results. These changes are truly invisible to others with no applause, yet they lead to an exceptional payoff.
It's the little bit better principle in action applied to almost anything. Think about a horse race. A horse wins by a nose, but often gets 10 times the prize money.
Right. Is it 10 times faster? No, it's just a little bit better.
Yeah.
Due to extra laps around the track, the extra discipline in the horse's nutrition, or the extra work by the jockey. Those tiny edges.
Similarly, in professional golf, the difference between the #1 and #10 ranked golfer is only 1.9 strokes on average across a round.
Tiny margin.
But the prize money difference is 5 times $10 versus $2 M's. The #1 golfer is only 2.7% better in terms of score, but the financial results are 5 times greater. It's that slight edge paying off hugely.
This powerfully illustrates that it's not the big things that add up in the end. It's the hundreds, thousands, or millions of little things that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary.
Yeah.
To be 1 stroke better in golf or 1 percentage point better in sales requires countless little, often unseen things that don't get accounted for when you're putting on the green jacket or signing that big contract.
He shares a great example with CEO Phil. Phil was the founder of a $100 million company, but his company culture was lacking engagement and enthusiasm. He admitted he hadn't been in parts of his building for 5 years and hadn't personally spoken to 80% of his staff.
Disconnected at the top. Happens easily.
Hardy suggested one incredibly small change. 3 times a week, Phil would simply walk around the building and seek out at least 3 people whom he saw doing things right or had heard good things about and give them some personal acknowledgement of his appreciation. Just connect with 3 people.
How long did that take?
This literally took less than an hour a week, but the impact was profound. Employees who were recognized went the extra mile. Others, seeing this, started performing better. This new positive attitude transferred directly to customer interactions, improving the customer's experience, which naturally increased repeat and referral business.
And the bottom line.
The result, net profits grew by more than 30% during that time, utilizing the same staff and zero additional investment in marketing, all from one tiny, consistent step of personal connection.
That's incredible ROI on less than an hour a week. Another compelling story is Kathleen's money tree journey. Kathleen, an assistant earning $40,000, was deeply skeptical, believing she could never save 10% of her income due to her bills.
A common belief. I just don't earn enough to save.
Hardy taught her tracking and started her with a tiny savings goal, just 33 tweeters, 1% a month. He showed her how to live on 33 tweeters less by simply bringing lunch one day a week. The next month, it was $67, 2%, by changing her cable subscription. The next, 3% by canceling a magazine and making her own Starbucks coffee at home.
Baby steps, so small you barely feel them.
What's truly remarkable is that by the end of the year, she was saving 10% of every dollar earned without noticing a significant impact on her lifestyle. But the story doesn't end there.
Oh, the ripple effect again?
Exactly. This newfound financial discipline had a profound ripple effect on other areas of her life. She started investing money from mind-numbing entertainment into personal growth, reading, and courses. Her creativity soared, bringing innovative ideas to Hardy.
So she started adding more value at work.
Immense value. She earned 10% of the money-saving strategies she implemented and 15% of new revenue strategies she brought in. By the end of the second year, she was earning more than $100,000 a year on the same $40,000 base salary.
Wow, more than doubled her income.
She eventually started her own business and now earns over $250,000 a year, with over $1 million in assets. All of this, from starting with a small choice to save just $33 a month.
That story really highlights the power of starting small and the unexpected positive ripples. These stories underscore a crucial principle. Time is of the essence. The earlier you start making even the smallest changes, the more powerfully the compound effect works in your favor.
Procrastination, therefore, comes at a truly significant compounding cost. It's not just delaying, it's losing growth potential.
Hardy gives a stark IRA investment example to drive this home. Imagine your friend starts investing just $250 a month in an IRA at age 23. You, however, don't start until age 40.
17 years later.
But then you diligently invest $250 a month until age 67, meaning you save for 27 years versus her 17 years. So you actually invest for longer.
Right, 10 years longer. What's the outcome?
The stark contrast is this. By age 67, your friend has more than $1 million, while you have less than $300,000, and you will have actually invested $27,000 more than your friend.
That's brutal. Invested more money for less return, just because you started later. This, he says, is what happens when we procrastinate and neglect necessary behaviors, habits, and disciplines. The power of time is undeniable in compounding.
Now, if you're listening and thinking, I'm already way behind, it's too late for me to start compounding, Hardy offers a powerful counter-argument. It's never too late.
Good news for some of us.
If you decide to learn piano at age 40, by the time you retire at 67, you'll have been playing for 25 years and could be a master. The key isn't perfection or a magical starting age. It's simply to start NW.
And Brian Tracy's 1,000% improvement model illustrates this beautifully, showing just how little you need to do to create massive change. All you have to do is aim to improve yourself, your performance, and your output and earnings by 110 of 1% each workday. That's roughly 0.1% a day with weekends off.
Just a tiny bit better each day. Seems achievable.
This tiny daily improvement compounds to a staggering 26% growth each year. Your income could effectively double each 2.9 years. By year 10, you can be performing and earning 1,000% what you are now.
10 times better. And the best part, it doesn't require 1,000% more effort or work 1,000% more hours. It's just that tiny, consistent daily improvement. It's about the direction, not just the immediate speed.
Finally, Hardy brings us the deeply inspiring story of Beverly's physical and life transformation, a testament that success is a half marathon, sometimes literally. Beverly, a salesperson, was significantly overweight and admitted she'd get winded going up a single flight of stairs.
Then there.
She truly believed she could never run a half marathon, that it was simply beyond her capability, completely out of reach.
But her why power was clear and compelling. She wanted to look fabulous for her 20-year high school reunion. This specific, visceral goal was the fuel she needed.
That deadline and desire helped. Hardy started her with a small step strategy, mapping out a 1-mile loop near her house. Then, she simply walked it 3 times over 2 weeks.
Just walking a mile. Okay.
After that, she walked it 3 times a week for 2 more weeks. Then she started a slow jog, stopping as soon as she felt breathless and continuing to walk. She gradually increased her jogging length.
How long did it take just to jog that first mile?
It took 3 more weeks, 9 outings in total, to jog a full mile without stopping. So that's 7 weeks just to consistently jog 1 single mile.
7 weeks? That shows real patience is needed.
Absolutely. From there, the compounding began. She increased her distance by 1/8 of a mile each outing, an almost unnoticeable length, maybe only 300 steps further. Yet within 6 months, she was running 9 miles without any discomfort.
9 miles from getting winded on stairs.
In 9 months, she was running 13.5 miles regularly, which is more than a half marathon.
Incredible progress, and the ripple effect on her life. I bet there was one.
Oh, absolutely profound. This physical discipline led her to lose her lifelong obsession with chocolate and heavy, fatty foods. Her increased energy brought more enthusiasm to her work. Her sales performance doubled during the same period.
Doubled her sales.
She became more affectionate toward her husband, and their relationship became more passionate. Her interaction with her children became more active and animated. She naturally stopped spending time with Debbie Downer friends and made new, healthy friends in a running club, which led to a whole host of additional positive choices, behaviors, and habits.
It transformed her whole social circle and outlook.
The grand finale. Beverly lost more than 40 pounds and now runs full marathons.
Full marathons. That's amazing. The story, combined with Jillian Michaels' warm-cold analogy from The Biggest Loser, that every choice and every decision they make in the moment is getting them closer to that ultimate goal, truly underscores that losing is a habit, so is winning. Every small choice adds up, for better or worse.
It really drives home the point that consistency in small actions creates massive change.
Now, for some direct application for you. For Chapter 2, Hardy gives us these summary action steps. First, he suggests what he calls a Thanksgiving journal. Identify one area, person, or circumstance in your life that you currently struggle with.
Something causing friction or negativity.
Then, for at least a week, start journaling all the aspects of that situation that you are grateful for. Keep a clear record of everything that reinforces and expands your gratitude in that area. It's about consciously shifting your focus from the negative to the positive aspects, however small.
Next, conduct your 100% responsibility audit. Honestly, assess where in your life you are not taking 100% responsibility for your current condition. It's tough, but crucial.
This requires real honesty. List 3 specific things you have done in the past that have messed things up. List 3 things you should have done but didn't, and list 3 things that happened to you but you responded poorly to.
Own your part in it. Finally, and this is the empowering part, write down 3 concrete things you can start doing right now to take back responsibility for the outcomes of your life. What actions can you take?
And finally, based on everything we've discussed about tracking, commit to tracking one behavior. Choose at least one specific behavior in one area of your life. Maybe it's your spending, your nutrition, your fitness, how often you recognize others, or your parenting interactions that you'd like to change and improve.
Just pick one to start.
Then commit to tracking it daily for the next 3 weeks. This is your personal scorecard to self-awareness and ultimately profound change. Get that baseline data.
This self-awareness and commitment to choice leads us naturally into Chapter 3, the engine mastering habits. Hardy opens this chapter with a powerful parable. A wise teacher asks a young pupil to pull up saplings, then a knee-high tree, then a tall evergreen.
Okay.
The boy can pull them all up with increasing effort. But when faced with a mighty oak, the boy simply says, "I am sorry, but I can't."
Too big, too strong. The lesson.
The lesson, the teacher explains, is the enduring power of habits. The older they are, the bigger they get, the deeper the roots grow, and the harder they are to uproot. Some get so big, with roots so deep, you might hesitate to even try. This metaphor powerfully illustrates how deeply ingrained habits become in our lives, almost invisible, but incredibly strong, like those oak roots.
Makes sense. Aristotle famously wrote, "We are what we repeatedly do." And Merriam-Webster defines habit as an acquired mode of behavior that has become nearly or completely involuntary. Automatic pilot.
Hardy uses another analogy that paints a vivid picture. A man riding a horse, galloping quickly, but when asked where he's going, he replies, "I don't know, ask the horse." This, he says, is the story of most people's lives. They're riding the horse of their habits with no idea where they're headed. The urgent call to action here is to take control of the reins. Find out where your habits are taking you.
It's true, isn't it? Psychological studies reveal that an astonishing 95% of everything we feel, think, do, and achieve is a result of a learned habit. Habits are like our brain's shortcuts. They allow us to use minimal conscious energy for daily tasks, like brushing teeth or buckling a seatbelt,
Frees up bandwidth.
freeing up vital mental energy for more creative and enriching pursuits. The problem comes when those shortcuts lead us down the wrong path, habitually.
What's crucial here is that good habits aren't just a part of success. They define success. All great achievers, CEOs, and superstars share one common trait. They all have good habits. Their consistent actions lead them to become more informed, more knowledgeable, more competent, better skilled, and better prepared. They didn't just stumble into greatness, they habitually built it, day by day.
He highlights legendary basketball player Larry Bird, Larry Legend, as a prime example. Bird wasn't known for extraordinary athletic talent or grace. He was known for his relentless dedication to practice.
His work ethic was legendary.
His habit was to practice 500 free throw shots every morning before school. 500. This incredible consistency, born from a simple habit, allowed him to kick the butts of some of the most gifted players in the league.
Talent isn't enough without the habits. The empowerment here is significant. Since every habit is learned, you can also unlearn the ones that aren't serving you well. We have the power, through conscious choice and consistent repetition, to condition your automatic and unconscious responses to be those of a developed champion. You're not stuck with the habits you have now.
That's hopeful. So why do we sometimes persist in bad habits even when we know they're not serving us? Hardy calls it the instant gratification trap. We logically know Pop-Tarts aren't healthy or that too much TV wastes precious time, yet we continue. Why?
Because the payoff or instant gratification derived from bad habits often far outweighs what's going on in your rational mind concerning long-term consequences. The immediate pleasure beats the distant pain.
He uses what he calls an instant pain test. If eating a Big Mac caused an instant heart attack or a single cigarette instantly shriveled your face, you wouldn't do it right.
Absolutely not. If skipping a prospecting call instantly bankrupted your business, you'd pick up the phone every time. The problem is the lack of immediate, visible negative feedback.
But that delay is deceptive.
Exactly. That doesn't mean you haven't activated the compound effect. Make no mistake, bad habits are quietly, insidiously compounding your life into repeated disaster, even if you don't see it today or tomorrow.
He reminds us of the plane 1% off course analogy again. A plane pointed only 1% off course from LA to NYC will land about 150 miles off course. This almost invisible adjustment illustrates how a single poor habit, which doesn't look like much in the moment, can ultimately lead you miles off course from your desired destination.
The solution, again, wake up and realize that super small, seemingly inconsequential adjustments can and will revolutionize everything, for good or ill.
The biggest challenge here, Hardy notes, is what he calls drifting. Most people drift through life without devoting much conscious energy to figuring out specifically what they want, just going with the flow.
And while uprooting deep-rooted habits, those mighty oaks, is arduous and difficult, here's a crucial point he makes. Willpower alone won't cut it. Relying solely on willpower is a recipe for failure.
Why?
Because as soon as things get uncomfortable or stressful or you're tired, you'll default back to what's easy and familiar, the old habit. Willpower is finite.
This brings us to your mojo, harnessing why power over willpower. He says plainly, forget about willpower. It's time for why power.
Why power? Okay, what's that?
Your choices gain real meaning, real staying power when you connect them to your desires and dreams. The most motivating choices are the ones aligned with that which you identify as your purpose, your core self, and your highest values. You've got to want something and know why you want it on a deep, visceral level.
That gut level reason.
Or you'll end up giving up too easily when the going gets tough, when willpower inevitably fades.
He revisits the classic plank analogy to powerfully demonstrate this difference. Walking a 10-inch wide, 30-foot-long plank on the ground for $20.
Easy money, no problem.
Walking the same plank between two 100-story buildings for $20.
Impossible for most people due to sheer paralyzing fear. No way.
But if your child was on the opposite burning building, you'd walk it without question and immediately.
That example always gets me chills. It perfectly illustrates that when the reason is big enough, you will be willing to perform almost anyhow. The why conquers the fear and difficulty.
He stresses that while monetary goals are perfectly fine, true passion has to come from a deeper place. As Anthony Robbins insightfully puts it, extraordinary accomplishment does not guarantee extraordinary joy, happiness, love, and a sense of meaning.
You can be successful but miserable.
Right. These two skill sets feed off each other. Success without fulfillment is failure. The true access point to your why power is through your core values, which are your internal compass. When your actions conflict with your values, it inevitably creates stress and inner turmoil.
So defining those values clearly makes decision-making simpler. Does this align with my core values? If yes, do it. If not, don't. It filters your choices.
What's fascinating is that sometimes motivation can stem not just from what you want, love, but equally powerfully from what you don't want, hate, or maybe righteous anger. Hardy calls this finding your fight.
Finding your fight, like an enemy.
Sort of. He argues sometimes identifying an enemy lights your fire. He points to historical and pop culture examples. David had Goliath, America had the British, Luke had Darth Vader, Rocky had Apollo Creed, Lance Armstrong had cancer, Apple had Microsoft.
Okay, I see the pattern.
These external enemies don't just provide an opponent, they challenge your skills, your character, and your resolve, forcing growth and pushing you to new levels. Without a motivating fight, we can easily become fat and lazy in our pursuits, metaphorically speaking.
He addresses the potential guilt some people feel for having less than noble goals, like proving naysayers wrong or simply wanting to beat the competition. But Hardy's take is liberating, isn't it?
Very much so. He says it doesn't matter what the motivation is, as long as it is legal and moral. You don't have to be motivated for great humanitarian reasons. What matters is that you feel fully motivated. It's about leveraging that internal fire, whatever sparks it.
Take Pete Carroll, the acclaimed football coach, for instance. He admitted he was a little dink growing up, frustrated by his small size. His feeling that he was much better and I needed to fight to prove it brought out his greatness.
Or consider Anthony Hopkins, the legendary actor. His extraordinary talent and determination blossomed from anger. As a horrible student with dyslexia, labeled a problem child, he felt resentful and rejected. He powerfully harnessed his anger to fuel his commitment to acting, becoming one of the greatest actors alive.
Wow, he channeled that negativity productively.
Exactly. This inner fight not only propelled his career, but also allowed him to help others recover from substance abuse and support environmental work later in life.
These stories underscore a crucial truth. You can absolutely use past hurtful experiences or perceived injustices to fuel positive, constructive change. It's about channeling that intense energy productively, rather than letting it fester into bitterness or inaction.
Moving on, if the compound effect is always at work, then you must know where you want to go. This is all about setting clear, compelling goals. You need a target.
Hardy shares wisdom from his mentor, the great Paul J. Meyer. If you are not making the progress that you would like to make and are capable of making, it is simply because your goals are not clearly defined.
Clarity is power. And Meyer's equally profound assertion, whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon, must inevitably come to pass. Belief and action are key.
Hardy credits his own abundance and success to learning how to effectively set and achieve goals. He argues that the highest achievers in the world have all succeeded because they mapped out their visions. But he then reveals the mystery secret of how goal setting actually works.
Okay, the real secret.
And it's not magical thinking. It's about your brain. Your brain is inherently goal-seeking. We're bombarded with billions of sensory bytes of information each day, but we ignore 99.9% of them. We only see, hear, or experience those upon which our mind focuses. Our reticular activating system, essentially.
So it's like a filter. This is how the law of attraction really works, according to Hardy. When you instruct your brain to look for the things you want, you will begin to see them. The object of your desire has probably always existed around you, but your mind and eyes weren't open to seeing it.
You're not miraculously drawing it in from the universe.
No, you're now just seeing what was already there all along because you told your brain to look for it. It's like when you shop for a new car, maybe a red convertible.
Suddenly you see red convertibles everywhere.
Exactly. They were always there, but you weren't paying attention to them.
Yeah.
Until you set that specific intention, that goal.
Brian Tracy strongly emphasizes this, stating, "Top people have very clear goals. They write it down and they make plans. A goal that is not in writing is merely a fantasy, shooting blanks without written goals. You have to commit it to paper."
Hardy strongly advises you to take time today to list your most important goals, covering what he calls whole life success. Goals for business, finances, health, spirituality, family relationships, and lifestyle, not just focusing on one area like money.
But before you dive into doing, there's a crucial question. Most people ask, what do I need to do to get it? The more powerful, transformative first question is, who do I need to become?
The be-do-have model.
Yeah.
Jim Rohn's profound philosophy on this revolutionized Hardy's life. If you want to have more, you have to become more. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become.
That shifts everything, doesn't it? Focus on becoming, not just pursuing. Hardy shares a deeply personal example that illustrates this beautifully with his marriage story. When he was single and ready to find a partner, he didn't just go out looking.
What did he do?
He first made a detailed 40-plus pages list of every single trait desired in his perfect woman. Every detail.
40 pages. That's specific.
Then, instead of just chasing her, he looked at his list and asked himself, what kind of a man would a woman like this be looking for? Who do I need to become to be attractive to a woman of this substance?
Turning the mirror on himself.
He then filled another 40 more pages describing the attributes he needed to develop within himself. Then he went to work on becoming and achieving those qualities.
And the result?
His wife, Georgia, is exactly what I described and asked for in almost eerie detail, because he became the kind of person who would attract her.
That's truly a testament to how focusing on internal transformation, who you are, is the ultimate magnet that attracts external results, what you have. It's a fundamental shift in perspective that emphasizes growth over mere acquisition or chasing.
Once you know who you need to become, it's time to behave yourself by identifying and adjusting those habits. The formula for results, according to Hardy, is simple. Choices plus behaviors plus habits results. Therefore, understanding your behaviors is imperative.
Makes sense. What stands between you and your goal often is your behavior. So the key questions are, what behaviors block the path and what behaviors need to be added?
The truth is, habits and behaviors never lie. If you say you want health but you've got Doritos dust on your fingers, the Doritos are the truth of your behavior regardless of your intentions.
Actions speak louder than words or intentions. If self-improvement is a priority but you spend more time on Xbox than at the library, the Xbox is the truth. If family is a priority but they're consistently not on your calendar, they aren't your true priority in practice.
Hardy reiterates that tracking is so effective precisely because many bad habits are unconscious. Do you really know how many hours of TV you watch every day or how many cans of soda you drink? The truth might surprise you or even shock you.
He shares a great example of a successful executive he worked with who was seeking to improve his productivity. When they tracked his day, it revealed he was spending an astonishing 3.5 hours daily consuming news, reading the newspaper, listening to radio on his commute, checking Yahoo, news on his computer, and watching evening TV news and sports.
3.5 hours on news.
This wasn't a necessity, it was a deeply ingrained habit. Hardy suggested a radical shift, turning off the TV and radio, canceling the newspaper, and using an RSS feeder to select and receive only the news he deemed important, reducing his news consumption to less than 20 minutes a day.
Cutting out the noise.
The impact was immediate and profound. This simple change immediately cleared out 95% of the mind-cluttering and time-sucking noise. It freed up 45 minutes in the morning and a full hour in the evening for productive activities. Exercise, listening to instructional and inspirational material, reading, planning, preparing, and spending quality time with his family.
So much time reclaimed.
The executive became less stressed and more inspired and focused, all from addressing one seemingly small daily habit that had become unconscious.
So for you, grab your notebook again. List your top 3 goals. For each goal, list the bad habits sabotaging your progress. Then list all the habits you need to adopt to achieve those goals. This isn't about judgment. It's about taking a clear-headed look at what you want to improve and connecting it directly to your daily actions. What are you actually doing?
Now let's talk game changers. 5 strategies for eliminating bad habits. The core idea here is empowering. Habits are learned, so they can absolutely be unlearned. The key, remember, is to make your why power so strong, so deeply felt, that it overwhelmingly defeats your urges for instant gratification.
1. Identify your triggers. This is fundamental. For each bad habit you want to break, identify the big 4s, the who, the what, the where, and the when that consistently trigger it.
Like detective work on yourself. Are you more likely to drink with certain people? Is there a particular time of day when you crave sweets? What emotions provoke your worst habits? Stress, fatigue, anger. What situations prompt them? Getting in the car, performance reviews, visiting in-laws, attending conferences.
This simple act of identification increases your awareness exponentially, giving you power over the impulse before it even fully forms. You see it coming.
2. Clean house. This is literal and figurative. Physically remove every drop of whatever enables your bad habits from your environment. If it's not there, you can't use it or consume it.
Like removing all alcohol in glasses from the house if drinking is the issue. Heave the coffee maker if that's your vice. Cancel all catalogs or retail offers that tempt you to overspend. Clean your cupboards of all the crap food.
And he tackles the common objection. But it's not fair to my family. His response. Dismiss the not fair argument. Everyone in your family is better off without it. This strategy eliminates the need to constantly muster the discipline by simply removing the temptation entirely. Out of sight, out of mind.
3. Swap it. This is a brilliant strategy. Alter harmful habits by replacing them with healthier alternatives that satisfy the underlying need or craving.
Right, you're not just eliminating, you're substituting. Hardy, for example, has a serious sweet tooth. He satisfies it with 2 Hershey's Kisses, 50 calories, instead of a 1,255-calorie banana split. Still gets the sweet hit, massively fewer calories. His sister-in-law replaced mindless tortilla chip crunching with carrot sticks, celery, and raw broccoli for the same satisfying crunch, plus added vegetables. His coworker replaced 8-10 Diet Cokes a day with low-sodium carbonated water with lemon, then plain water, eventually realizing he didn't even need the carbonation.
The goal is to maintain the enjoyment or sensation while eliminating the negative impact. Find a healthier replacement.
4. Ease in. For long-standing, deeply rooted habits, those big oaks, a cold turkey approach can be overwhelming and lead to failure. Instead, take small, incremental steps to unwind them gradually.
Like the caffeine example.
Exactly. Hardy and his wife successfully weaned off caffeine by first doing 50% decaf, 50% regular coffee for a week, then 100% decaf for a week, then decaf Earl Grey tea, then decaf green tea. Over an entire month, they experienced not even a moment of caffeine withdrawal. No headaches, no sleepiness, no brain fog.
So the gradual approach worked perfectly for them.
This phased approach significantly reduces discomfort and dramatically increases the likelihood of success for deeply ingrained habits where the withdrawal might be significant.
5. Or jump in. And this is the paradox. For some habits and some people, changing many bad habits at once, going cold turkey, can actually be easier and more effective.
Wait, the opposite approach.
Sometimes. Pioneering cardiologist Dr. Dean Ornish, for instance, reversed advanced heart disease without medication or surgery by implementing dramatic lifestyle changes. A very low-fat diet, exercise, stress reduction, all at once. His patients found it easier to adopt all the changes in less than a month rather than incrementally. The radical shift created momentum.
Hardy's story of Lake Rollins cold water skiing, where the anticipation of cold was worse than the reality, illustrates how our bodies acclimated quickly once he just jumped in.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Another powerful example is his former partner's brother, a beer-guzzling, bar-brawling, life-of-the-party alcoholic who quit cold turkey after seeing a friend's vitality at a wedding and hasn't touched alcohol in over 6 years. Just stopped completely.
So sometimes the shock to the system works.
Our bodies and minds have an incredible homeostatic ability to adjust to unfamiliar behavior changes quickly. So you need to ask yourself, where can I start slow with a small incremental adjustment? And where do I need to take that bigger, decisive leap? It depends on the habit and your personality.
Hardy also suggests a valuable run a vice check. Every 3 months, he picks one vice, whether it's coffee, ice cream, wine, or even movies, and abstains from it for 30 days.
Just to test it.
Exactly. This isn't about permanent deprivation. It's to prove to myself that I'm still in charge. If it's seriously difficult to abstain, that's a red flag. That habit might have more control over you than you realize and might be worth cutting out permanently or significantly reducing.
Interesting self-assessment tool. Now that we've talked about eliminating the old, let's turn to the game changers. 6 techniques for installing good habits. Eliminating bad habits clears space, but installing good ones is like planting a tree. It takes conscious effort, time, and consistent practice.
As leadership expert John C. Maxwell wisely observed, you will never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. It all comes back to the daily.
Research suggests it can take 300 instances of positive reinforcement, which is almost a year of daily practice, for a new behavior to become unconscious practice, truly automatic.
A whole year. Wow.
However, Hardy says that just 3 weeks of diligent focus gives you a far better chance of making it a lifelong practice. Get over that initial hump. The key to sustaining good habits, especially in the early stages, is staying aware and paying attention to it at least once a day. Almost like how touching a hot stove instantly and intensely changes behavior, you instantly know not to do it again because the feedback is immediate and strong. We need to create that kind of awareness for good habits.
1. Set yourself up to succeed. This means actively arranging your life and your environment to make the new habit as easy and convenient as possible. Reduce friction.
If you're joining a gym, it must be close and convenient and fit into your schedule seamlessly. If it's a hassle, you won't go. Stock your fridge and pantry with healthy options. Keep nuts and healthy snacks in your desk drawer at work to avoid vending machine binges when hunger strikes. Make the good choice the easy choice.
Hardy gives a personal example with his email addiction, which he calls his most distracting and destructive habit, to instill his new habit of checking email only 3 times a day.
Which takes discipline.
He systematically turned off all alarms, all automatic receive functions, and shut the program down. He literally had to build the walls around that time vortex to break the old habit and create space for the new one. Remove the triggers.
Think addition, not subtraction. This is a powerful reframe we touched on. Instead of focusing on what you're giving up by adopting a new habit, focus on what you gain or add into your life.
Like Montel Williams, with his strict diet for multiple sclerosis, embraces this add-in principle. He focuses on what you put in instead. For example, today I'm going to have a salad and steamed vegetables and fresh figs. This fills his focus and his belly, so he has no longer attention or hunger for what he can't have.
Focus on the positive addition. Hardy shares a story about a friend who wanted to stop wasting time watching TV. Instead of focusing on no TV, Hardy asked what he would do with those 3 hours of free time.
What positive thing could fill that space?
The friend mentioned playing with his kids more and exploring photography. So he got high-tech editing equipment, started taking photos of his kids on family outings, and spent his evenings editing. The result: he no longer had the time nor the desire to sit around and watch TV, because he found passions with far more power and far bigger payoffs. He crowded out the bad habit with a better one.
3. Go for a PDA, public display of accountability. Make your commitment public to leverage social pressure and support. Tell people what you're doing.
It's like a public official taking an oath. You'll be held responsible for any action that rolls back your commitment. Use social media. A woman Hardy knew blogged every penny she spent to control her finances, gaining her family, friends, and colleagues as eyes of scrutiny.
That takes guts.
Hardy helped a coworker, Zelda, quit smoking by having her publicly announce it to the entire company, and he put up a huge wall calendar for her to draw big red X's daily for every smoke-free day. Zelda didn't want to quit on that chart, quit on her coworkers, or quit on herself. The public aspect helped immensely.
So, tell your family, tell your friends, tell Facebook and Twitter, get the word out that there's a new sheriff in town and you're in charge of your habits.
4. Find a success buddy. There are few things as powerful as 2 people marching toward the same goal, locked arm in arm, for mutual accountability. Don't go it alone if you don't have to.
Hardy himself has a peak performance partner with whom he has a weekly 30-minute call to trade our wins, losses, fixes, ahas, solicit feedback, and crucially, hold each other accountable.
That regular check-in makes a difference. Look for a buddy for regular walks, runs, gym dates, or maybe just to discuss personal development books you're both reading. The shared journey makes all the difference.
5. Competition and camaraderie. Inject a little friendly contest and competitive spirit to immerse yourself in a new habit. Make it a game.
Dr. Mehmet Oz once noted, if people would just walk 1,000 more steps per day, they would change their lives. So Hardy's Success magazine held a step competition where employees organized into teams used pedometers.
And what happened?
People who didn't previously exercise started walking 4, 5, or 6 miles a day at lunch or on conference calls just to beat the other teams. Even when the official competition ended, step counts shot right back up when reorganizations hinted at a new contest.
The competition fueled the habit.
It keeps people's engines revved and fosters a wonderful sense of community and shared experience.
Celebrate. This is so important and often overlooked. Provide yourself with little rewards along the way to avoid burnout and backsliding.
Remember, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. It needs to feel good sometimes. Daily or weekly rewards could be simple. Time for a relaxing walk, a luxurious bath, or reading just for fun.
For bigger milestones, maybe book a massage or enjoy dinner at your favorite restaurant. Promise yourself a nice big pot of gold for reaching the ultimate goal. This acknowledges effort, provides essential positive reinforcement, and makes the challenging journey enjoyable. Don't forget to reward the progress.
Finally, Hardy offers a refreshing perspective. Change is hard. Yippee! Instead of dreading the difficulty, embrace it.
Yippee! Why yippee?
He explains that 99% of failures and successful folks have in common. They all hate doing the same things, like getting up early, making sales calls, eating salads.
Right.
The crucial difference is successful people do them anyway. This perspective is actually empowering, because if change were easy, it would be much more difficult for you and me to stand out. Ordinary is easy. Extraordinary is what will separate you from the crowd. The difficulty creates the opportunity.
So the hardness is an advantage.
Personally, Hardy is always happy when something is hard, because he knows most people won't do what it takes. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. profoundly said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge. When you press on, despite difficulty, tedium, and hardship, that's when you earn your improvement and gain strides on the competition. It's in those moments of struggle that true character and resilience are built.
And remember to be patient with yourself. Science shows that repeated thoughts and actions literally create neurosignatures, or brain grooves, in your neural pathways. Attention feeds the habit.
Like carving a path in the brain.
When you stop giving attention to bad habits, those grooves gradually weaken. When you form new habits, you drive new grooves deeper with each repetition, eventually overpowering the previous ones. This process takes time and consistency. It's physical change in your brain.
So if you fall off the wagon, Hardy advises you to brush yourself off, not beat yourself up, and get back on immediately. Don't let one slip derail everything. Consistency, not perfection, is the key to those huge payoffs.
So for your summary action steps for Chapter 3, Hardy suggests a comprehensive habit audit. First, identify your 3 best habits that currently support your most important goal. What's working?
Next, identify your 3 worst habits that currently take you off course from that same important goal. What's hindering you? Be specific.
And finally, identify 3 new habits you need to develop to put you squarely on track toward achieving that goal. What needs to be added?
Then, deeply consider your core motivation and why power. Take time to truly discover what genuinely gets you fired up and keeps you fired up to achieve big results. What's your fuel?
Design your concise, compelling, and awe-inspiring goals, ensuring they align perfectly with that deepest why power we discussed. Make them meaningful to you.
And as a helpful reminder, Hardy points to free downloadable resources like a habit sheet, a core values assessment, and a goal sheet available from the Compound Effect website, as well as the Living Your Best Year Ever program for structured goal achievement. These are tools designed to help you put these principles into practice, so check them out.
Today, we've gone deep into Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect, revealing a fundamental truth. True, lasting success isn't about grand gestures, magical solutions, or overnight transformations. It's built brick by tiny brick through the consistent, often quiet application of small, smart choices.
We've seen how these seemingly insignificant actions compound into radical, life-altering differences in your health, your finances, your relationships, and your overall quality of life. It's truly profound when you grasp it.
The power of this principle lies not in merely knowing it, but in applying it every single day. You now have the blueprint, the critical self-awareness that comes from diligently tracking your choices.
The unshakable strength derived from connecting to your deep why power.
And concrete, actionable strategies to eliminate negative habits while installing positive, productive ones. The tools are there.
So, if your most mundane, unsexy, consistent daily actions are truly the architects of your future, consider this.
What is just one seemingly insignificant daily routine you could either implement or eliminate starting today?
There's one thing
that, if maintained consistently for the next 5 years, would utterly transform your life in a way that feels nothing short of pure magic?
The compound effect is already working its subtle power in your life. The only question left is for or against you.